The theme for today in the meditation and Dharma talk is really revolving around endings and new beginnings. It's that time of year on the calendar. And what I really love to do in my own practice and to share with you is really going back to the basics of practice, really, really deepening our knowledge and understanding and experience with the Four Noble Truths of suffering, one of Buddha's first teachings, and also the Eightfold Path, which is connected to the Four Noble Truths. So we'll do a little refreshing of that, of those teachings as I also always see those teachings as new beginnings. Um, so where to start? And I thought it would be nice to start with a poem with that very title of Starting Close In by David White. So David White writes, start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet. Your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. So today, we'll begin with a simply or light guided meditation. And as I mentioned, there'll be plenty of opportunities to begin again and creating space, refreshing your meditation practice that's really grounded in some core teachings. So if you haven't already, take some time to find a comfortable position for meditation. Many of you are seated, but if you prefer lying down or even standing, those are also wonderful forms of posture for meditation. And really taking some moments in the beginning to focus on the posture. It's difficult to drop down into a more deeper, focused state if you're not comfortable. So it may be nice just to move a little bit, back and forth, side to side, as you find those posture points, upright and balanced, ears over shoulders, the chin slightly tucked, allowing the neck muscles to relax, softening your eyes, or finding a fixed point for meditation. And then holding your hands in your lap. I like to use the cosmic mudra from Zen practice, and that's resting palm over palm with the thumb slightly touching. I'm just showing it in the video if you want to take a peek. And this cosmic mudra is held below your belly button. In a receptive mode. And now bringing your attention, your awareness from the external world to the internal world. allowing your breath to be an anchor of awareness, to bring you into the body. And just noticing the body breathing. Allowing the mind body to calm itself. It may be helpful in the beginning of meditation to take a few deep breaths to bring your body more into the parasympathetic nervous system, especially if you've been rushing about this morning. Beginning with deep breathing is a signal to the brain that your body can relax. And then gently returning to your normal breath and just noticing the rise and fall of the breathing body. And just being curious and following your breath for a few moments. As it breathes in and breathes out. Feeling gratitude for taking the time to be here today. All the myriad other things you could be doing. And gratitude for this community to practice with. Bringing your intention and your awareness again in and down. And naming your intention for practice. Why are you here? What really matters? Expanding our awareness to all the myriad things. The world continues to challenge us in many ways. And the world continues to give us beauty and joy in many ways. Right here with this body and mind, we have a place that can become a place of stability, a place of presence, a place of awareness. And noticing as we settle into this practice, when we come into the body, we can notice all of the feelings. Restlessness, anxiety, physical pain, sometimes heartache. And noticing it may feel easier to be somewhere else. So the mind wanders out, looking for some other place to be. And when the mind-body works together, there can be great power here. Even if the body is unwell, even if the body is weak, we can learn how to be present with feelings and feeling tones in the body. Turning towards, as best as we can, and as compassionately as we can, to that which may be uncomfortable. Like making friends with the discomfort. Giving it a chance to be known, to be felt. It will change. We're paying attention because it's here. It's just like this. Coming back to the mind body, working together. Steady and stable. And gently coming back to your breath. Breathing in and down. Into your body. Into a deeper, more spacious awareness. Feeling your body grounded with your posture, balanced and upright. Supported by the earth, the body and the earth. Earth element to earth element. And the invitation is simply to breathe in and down into the belly. Feeling your body steadily here as your breath comes and goes. And the feeling tones are like this. They come and they go. Pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. The feeling tones are here and then they're gone. All the myriad things. Letting be, letting go. and just noticing. Breathing in and down, creating a clearing, more space. Steady and aware of whatever arises. And noticing with curiosity, an awakening factor. And simple awareness of the breath as it comes and goes, as thoughts come and go, and sounds rising and falling. Dropping deeper into stillness, into spaciousness. and being with whatever arises. With this steady, stable awareness, the stability of mind and attention, we are more able to be with what is difficult, uncomfortable. With this awareness comes wisdom. How we wish to live our lives. Finding beauty in a broken world is creating beauty in a broken world. And just noticing if you're lost in thought, distracted, you can always come back to your breath and just noticing the rising and falling of the breath. In this moment, and begin again without judgment. And in the closing moments of this sit, I'd like to gather and share the merit of our practice, demonstrating how we don't practice alone or only for ourselves, but for the benefit of all beings without exception. By dedicating merit, we express our gratitude for the opportunity to practice together. For all beings in our lives and in the world. May we find ways to live more lightly on the earth. And may all beings live their lives with an awakened heart. Thank you so much for your practice. And a deep bow of gratitude. So hello again and welcome back. I'm going to give a short Dharma talk. And I thought I would begin this talk with a short reflection that I mentioned earlier, a question on why meditate. So just take a few moments just for yourself. When you sit and when you practice meditation, think about why you practice, just for a few moments. What brought you here today? And I would just note that we all come to sit and practice for an array of reasons. And sometimes it's to quiet ourselves, to find that sort of peace and calm through the mind body, through these breathing exercises. And sometimes it's for a little spiritual uplift. And sometimes it may be to be held in the embrace of this Sangha, this community, this caring community. Sometimes it may be to get in touch with our bodies and our lives, and to remember that there's a greater picture, something greater than ourselves, touching into the depths of our true nature, Buddha nature, that is wise and compassionate. So we come to sit together for an array of reasons, and you just were reflecting on your own reasons. But I also mentioned about in the sharing of merit, about not only practicing for ourselves but for all beings. And so this brings me back to the concept of self, of ego. I wanted to talk a little bit about the ego. So in Buddhist terms, ego is an illusion of a permanent, independent self, distinct from the ever-changing, impermanent flow of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And when we're overly identified with our egos, we tend to be more attached to these causes of suffering. Now, if you really think about it, and reflect on the Four Noble Truths, that there's suffering, there are causes and conditions of suffering, we don't need to add to them, and that there's a path to sensation, the Eightfold Path. And so the causes of suffering are stated as greed, aversion, ignorance. Greed or clinging, I want XYZ. This is mine. Or aversion, pushing away. Oh, I don't like that. I don't want that. And then ignorance or delusion. Delusion, ignorance of the Four Noble Truths and the causes of suffering. And one of the goals, I would say, through this practice is loosening that grip, that clinging of the ego's demands and attachments, and how this may lead to a greater sense of freedom and liberation from suffering. So I would say that's at the core teaching of the Four Noble Truths. And, as human beings, we know that it's not easy. We live in a culture that focuses a lot on the self-image, and we can become quite identified with ourselves, with our ego. And I wouldn't say that this is necessarily wrong or bad, but in the scheme of things, we can consider the self or the ego as more limited, as small. The ego is our subjective self. All of our wants and desires, all of our attachments. And so when we practice, we can notice this. We can work with outgrowing the ego. We can soften the sense of an independent self. And we can work with Zen Master Dogen's teaching that some of you may be familiar with, where he said, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. So what does that mean? Essentially, this teaching is about interconnection, the non-separate self. The realization that one is not separate from the universe, from being part of this continuous unfolding. From this understanding about the root causes of suffering, that greed or craving, aversion, and ignorance. And noticing the impermanent nature of these things. So one reason why we meditate, or meditation is a central part of this practice, is that it does provide us with some spaciousness, some more space, perhaps even more calm when we use the breath to calm the mind-body, providing a more focused presence, if you will, that's needed to see through this illusion of a fixed self. And when we're more present in our daily lives, we may utilize our time then in ways that can cultivate these more positive mental states. And then, this goes into teachings of the Brahma Viharas, for example, the divine abodes of loving kindness, of compassion, of sympathetic joy, while also noting and being with the suffering, the first noble truth, right? There is suffering. There are causes and conditions. These causes and conditions change. We don't need to add to the causes and conditions. This is through conducting ourselves in ethical ways. And this is pointed out in the fourth noble truth, the path towards the cessation of suffering, the eightfold way, the eightfold path. And as I mentioned in the beginning of today's session, I was going to bring us back to some basic teachings. So the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which is always a beautiful thing to begin again, with these teachings, to study them, to practice them. And for some of you who may be new to the Eightfold Path, I also thought it would be nice to do just a really quick refresher during today's talk. And what I want to do, or what I will do, is I'll walk through each of the 8 elements of the Eightfold Path, and I'll just give a very short commentary on each. And I want to begin by saying that essentially the elements of the Eightfold Path are grouped into 3 buckets: around wisdom, right understanding and intention, around ethical conduct, and then the last 2 are around meditation, mindfulness and concentration. So, just beginning with the first one, you can think to yourself, what is the first element of the Eightfold Path? Some of you may know. It's right understanding. And so, right understanding is about accepting these teachings and to practice them and judge for yourself if they're true. Right understanding. The second is right intention. And that's a commitment to cultivate right attitudes, cultivating a mind towards what's good, what's wholesome, and what's not harmful. So that's intention, right intention. The third is right speech, speaking truthfully, avoiding gossip and other forms of harmful speech. The fourth is right action, behaving peacefully and harmoniously, refraining from stealing, killing, overindulgence. The fifth is right livelihood, avoiding a living that causes harm, such as exploiting people and the planet. I mentioned that I conducted a day-long retreat last Saturday, and I also walked through the elements of the Eightfold Path. And there are a number of young people at this retreat. And I would say right livelihood really struck a chord with them. And there was a lot of really wonderful conversation as they were contemplating what is a right livelihood. So these are very meaningful elements that are reflective in our daily lives. The sixth element on the Eightfold Path is right effort. And that's cultivating positive states of mind, freeing ourselves from negative emotions, cultivating positive states of mind. I mentioned the Brahma Viharas, those heart practices, I would say also help cultivate positive states of mind. The seventh element is right mindfulness. We do this in our meditation practice, right? Developing awareness of the body, the sensations, the feeling tones, the feelings, and states of mind. Right mindfulness. And the eighth element on the path is right concentration. Developing the mental focus necessary for awareness. And this goes together with mindfulness. So wisdom, ethical conduct, and a meditation practice are the elements of the Eightfold Path that lead us toward the cessation of suffering. So a refresher, a good way to start the new year along the Eightfold Path. And also just noticing in our lives about, that bringing in that concept of impermanence, that whatever happened in your life thus far is a memory, and whatever happens next is genuinely new. So you can sincerely make the most of your life one moment at a time along this path, and to see who you truly are. And to see who you truly are, knowing you are not your body, you're not your thoughts or emotions, because they come and go. But you're this the spirit or consciousness born into this body. And that when we touch into the depths of our true nature, love and compassion and wisdom, these elements become more accessible in our lives, allowing us to act from this place with more direct experience, like really listening to a friend, being at the bedside of a loved one, allowing yourself to really show up, being with these unpleasant experiences without pushing them away. And then also being with pleasant experiences without grasping or clinging. And then I like to add acting courageously for the benefit of others. A key teacher of mine, Roshi Joan Halifax, describes this as actualizing an inner calm of wisdom and outer actions of compassion. And so in essence, what I would like to say through this talk is that this practice begins with ourselves. And it takes courage to really see ourselves and to work with what we see, to study the self, right? And in short, our lives as human beings, if we're able to be of some benefit to someone else, then that is really an activity of an enlightened being. Once again, being able to touch into our depths of true nature and allowing that love and compassion and wisdom to be more accessible. A way of being in the world. So moving into this new year, I would love to close with this quote from David Orr, the writer of Earth and Mind. And he writes, "The plain fact is that the planet does not need more successful people, but it does desperately need more peacemakers, healers, restorers, storytellers, and lovers of every kind. It needs people of moral courage, willing to join the fight to make the world habitable and humane. And these qualities have little to do with success as we have defined it." So moving into the new year, studying the self, and letting go a little bit of that ego to be more present and awake and aware in your lives, cultivating more positive mental mind states through heart practices, loving kindness, beginning with yourself, that metta, loving kindness, compassion, and remembering, as Hafiz wrote, that we were created for joy. He wrote in a line in a poem that I love, "Sometimes I forget I was created for joy." So thank you for listening, and thank you so much for your practice. May you all have a happy, peaceful, healthy New Year.